Hello there guys, welcome back to Younes Talks Football, welcome back to a brand new video. I hope all of you are doing well today as we give to you video number 1. Now, video number 2 will be out tonight and we'll get into all the latest from now up until then, but we do have, do I want to say blockbuster? Maybe not blockbuster, but it is major breaking news that is coming out in relation to Jhon Duran. We also have latest on Michael Olise as well to wrap it all up in terms of how that deal is looking like it's going to go. So we'll get through that, but from now up until later, all the latest on video number 2 will be here. So make sure you subscribe to the channel and notification bells are on so you know when I've uploaded. Now, let's get cracking. Latest from Matt Law on Jhon Duran, and it's looking like this is now in motion properly. Let's get into it. Here's latest from Matt Law. Chelsea have been given permission to discuss personal terms with Aston Villa's Jhon Duran. Matt Law goes on to say, Villa have inquired about Maatsen. On top of that, also, it is believed that a deal between the two clubs for Duran, which could be worth up to £40 million, is broadly agreed, but there are still hurdles to overcome. On top of this, goes on to say Chelsea would want to put Duran on an incentivized contract rather than putting him straight on big wages, and they also want to be sure over his character. A deal between the two clubs is broadly agreed. Now, Unai Emery has been forced to sell Duran due to PSR rules, apparently. Duran is rated sky high at Aston Villa. So, that's the latest overall in relation to Jhon Duran. I have to be honest, if we were going to just chuck out 40 million, just go, here you go, boom, I think that's ridiculous. Like I've already mentioned, I would take the player. Not as a main guy. Not as someone that's going to be competing for the number 1 spot. Not as someone that was just going to throw into, the deep end and go on, you now got to score goals for Chelsea Football Club. Like, I just wouldn't do that to someone like Jhon Duran, who we don't even know much about. I don't feel like maybe even Aston Villa know much about him. He's not done that much yet. You know what I mean? I mean, yes, he did play for the reserve team at Aston Villa and then got brought up to the first team and whatnot. But you get the gist. The fact that we are possibly including another player in this deal is something we alluded to yesterday. And this is where I was saying, you know what? Okay, now we can talk about a deal that might be okay. If we were to stick a David Washington or a Datro Fofana or, someone of that bracket that we've even forgotten has even existed at Chelsea Football Club, right? And we're in the straight swap, or even on top of that, because Aston Villa are looking to make profit on the money that they got in order to balance out their books for PSR. This is why they're selling Douglas Luiz for a deal that just doesn't really make any sense, right? We've all heard about what's going on with Douglas Luiz and Juventus, and it's baffling. But Aston Villa clearly are under financial pressure. So this is where sticking a player, maybe even up to 5 mil on top and just leave us alone. Cool. That should leave enough there to go and get another player that's going to come in and be a top-end striker, right? A proper one, which is why I was alluding to Alvarez. Now, Maatsen stuck into this deal. Borussia Dortmund don't want to pay the release clause. The release clause is 35 million. Maatsen being stuck into this deal in terms of what Aston Villa want makes sense because it's 35. It's close to 40. It's the valuation that they want for Jhon Duran. But it is still giving Aston Villa close to 40 million, which I've got a problem with. Maatsen is a player I'd like to keep. But this is also a player that we know Chelsea want to get pure profit on. Even if Maatsen goes off to Aston Villa in terms of a swap deal, that will still be registered as pure profit on Chelsea's book. So this is something that I think Chelsea are just going to be interested in for a player that we're not going to use, and we don't even need to spend much money upfront cash, then it would be okay for Chelsea. But for me, I still think we're offering Aston Villa more than what Jhon Duran is worth. We just are. And I don't feel great about that. Because, again, my initial concern with this deal is that we are bringing Jhon Duran in to be number one striker. I'm just like, what are we doing here? What are we doing? My concern is that we are neglecting going in and getting someone that's going to be of a certain pedigree. But on the flip side, now this is where it leaves a big question mark. Financially, in terms of cash, Chelsea will still have cash there to spend that they wouldn't have spent on Jhon Duran. They've given Ian Maatsen, who was going to leave anyway. So this is where, in terms of the value of the deal, I feel like this isn't good value. But Chelsea are not paying cash, which means that we should still be in a position to, even if we get this deal done, go out and get a proper striker to come in and set the level, right? This has just left loads of questions, basically. So I want to ask you, where do you think this is going? Where do you think we're being led to? And where do you think Chelsea are taking this? Because now I'm in a predicament where I don't actually know where we're going. Are we getting Jhon Duran in and that's it? We're not going to look at a striker anymore, which I think would be crazy. Or because of the structure and the way of this deal, and we're not actually paying cash up front, if this is going to happen, by the way, if it's going to be in Maatsen, then do we leave ourselves room to go and get someone with cash? Which I would be okay with. Like I've said, I'd be happy to get a striker, have Jackson and have Duran. I'd be cool with that. But I'm not so sure Chelsea are going to do that. So this is where I leave the question to you guys. What do you think Chelsea are going to do? Now, we also have to pay emphasis too. What Matt Law said is that Villa have inquired about Ian Maatsen. There's nothing that suggests that this is advanced. I'd like to hope that maybe something is part of a deal and we're not paying 40 million cash for Jhon Duran, because if we're doing that, then we've lost our minds. And I do want to stress on the people that say, no, but Chelsea, Younes, this is Chelsea's money. This isn't your money. Let them do what they want. No, I used to think like that. But after seeing what Chelsea are about now with this new ownership and this model and what we're doing, whatever we spend has to mean something. Because if it doesn't, we aren't going to have a big enough budget to go and do what we want afterwards at the expense of doing this sort of deal. We pay 40 million for Duran, for example, cash. You can say goodbye to getting another striker. It's not happening. And for me, that leaves us in a worse position. Now, we have to be fair. Unless Jhon Duran comes in and performs miracles, which I'm not expecting. But if he did, then fair play. Fair enough, right? If that were to happen. But who's to say? We don't know. So this is where it's another big risk and another big gamble if we go down that route. But you know that Chelsea won't be leaving themselves with the available funds to go and do the business that I would like to see Chelsea do if we do pay £40 million for Duran. That's my concern. So it does mean what we spend nowadays. Maybe under Roman, yeah, it's not our money, it's fine, because you knew we were just going to do what we want. Whereas now, it's not the case. So that's the latest in terms of Jhon Duran. Let me know. Chelsea are also conducting background checks, apparently, according to Matt Law, on Jhon Duran because of his attitude problem. He's got a discipline problem. We know this. And I don't like that off the bat. I don't like that one bit. But it's public knowledge. He's done things at Aston Villa. He's caused trouble, caused issues. Unai Emery said he needs to grow up. But you see, this is the part of the game that data doesn't account for. Right? Data can't measure that. You can't get a metric on discipline. You can't. Is the player a good guy or is he not, basically? You know? So we'll see what these background checks are going to do. Personally, I don't think they're even going to pay much attention to it. I just think they're going to get the deal done. And we'll see what happens. So let me know your thoughts down below. Let's move to Michael Olise. Matt Law's given us his latest on this too. Chelsea will hold more talks with Palace over Michael Olise. It's understood the complicated clause in Olise's contract is not only for Champions League clubs and that Chelsea are confident they will not have to pay more than any other club to land him. this again goes back to what we mentioned yesterday, because Matt Law did come out and say that this might be a Champions League clause, and then afterwards he corrected himself saying, no, it's not a Champions League clause. So Chelsea are very much in this deal, and it doesn't even depend on that. I think, like I said yesterday, if Chelsea just pay above the release clause, then they're going to have to be able to dictate and negotiate with Crystal Palace in terms of payment structure. It won't have to be one lump sum. That's what you do when you go above a release clause. So I think Chelsea are in a good position in regards to Michael Olise, and we'll see what happens. But Matt Law does elaborate on what deal could possibly be done. So here we go. Crystal Palace would prefer a cash deal for Olise, but Palace doing a deal with Chelsea would open up the possibility of Chelsea doing loan business with them this summer. We've got a good history with Crystal Palace in terms of loans. Conor Gallagher, Loftus-Cheek, to name a couple. So there is that. But at the end of the day, paying just above 60 mil for a player like Olise is a good deal, even if it was cash. But I do think we've got enough resources, more than enough resources, that we can, let go of a player, or even two players that we just don't even think about at this football club, and send them the other way and see if Palace are interested. I reckon there is scope to get a player plus cash deal for Olise in relation to triggering the clause. Not Madueke, preferably, like I mentioned yesterday. I wouldn't want that. But I do think there is scope here. Now, if we get a cash deal, I'd like to think that maybe we get offered, or we're able to do a deal for less cash if there is going to be a loan deal, even if you put in an option to buy in that loan deal perhaps, and make it the possibility that that player could become a permanent down the line. Those compromises that you do, we could end up doing something like that, I feel like, in order to maybe bring the overall costs of the deal down for Chelsea Football Club, and that would be good. But we need to act quick before other clubs come into the picture. So that's that. Now, Fraser Fletcher has come out and made it clear that Chelsea have made ground. So here it is. Exclusive. Excitement and confidence growing at Chelsea over Michael Olise after verbal agreement. They are ready to pay a big fee and structure a deal to land the Palace man. Sources say Chelsea are leading the race. So overall, it's looking good. It's looking good. And I'd like to think that we are going to get this done. It would be pretty embarrassing and completely Chelsea's fault if this falls through now. Because unlike last summer, which wasn't Chelsea's fault, that was Crystal Palace's fault. They decided to change the terms. They decided to tie Olise down and hold him hostage to a new deal with a photograph that looked like he didn't want to be there. And now we've come full circle. Well, now Palace are willing to listen, and Palace are happy to talk, and they're interested in players and all of this. Now it's down to us. If we don't get this done, it's our fault. So let's wait and see what's going to happen, but it's looking good. So Chelsea, don't bottle it whilst we are in a good position. Let me know your thoughts down below. Apart from that, not much that's happened elsewhere, but anything that does happen, we will be talking about on video number 2. So make sure you guys are here for that. Do not forget to hit the subscribe button if you haven't done so already. Hit the notification bell to be notified once I've uploaded. On top of that, the Euros kicks off tonight. So we'll see. I'm not going to be able to talk about Germany on this channel at the end of the game, but I do reckon that we will be talking about the Euros as it goes, as it progresses. But ultimately, tomorrow will be the Serbia versus England preview. And then on Sunday, I will be giving you my match review as well. So make sure you guys are there for all of it as it drops. And I will see all of you later on tonight. So have a good one, people. Look after yourself. See you later. Take care and peace.